Okay. Well, let's do this. I appreciate you being willing to work with me.
You bet. So are you in Rexburg, Spencer?
I'm actually in Seattle right now because I'm doing some interviews there, and
Oh, okay.
I'm usually doing this from my office, but I'm in Seattle. Had some interviews yesterday, and I'll have some more this afternoon. So.
Oh, good. Okay. We live up in Island Park, actually.
Oh, do you?
Yeah. And so we're close. Well, we have a home in Arizona, and that's why we know Braden.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Oh, that's neat. Yep. In fact, I was in Island Park just the other day with my youth camping out, young men's,
Oh,
young women's camp out. So,
oh, great. Super.
oh, that's
That's a
neat.
good thing to, yeah.
Well, let me tell you a little bit about what I'm doing, and it will kind of set up things. I'm looking for the it factor, the qualities, skills, and attributes that make individuals not only employable, but also a valued member of a team. And ultimately, I want us to say we are graduating uh, people that are ready for the workforce. But in
Okay.
order to know if they're ready, I need to find out what does the workforce need.
Sure.
And so I've kind of broken these questions down into four areas: the finding stage, the interview stage, the trial stage, and the promotional stage. And so as we go through this, I just want you to think about employees or coworkers that have had um, that you've really respected or that you wanted on your team, and just kind of answered to that, because ultimately I want every BYU Idaho student to be qualified, ready to go to be on everybody's team. So,
Okay.
and I don't know what your role is as far as like hiring or firing or promoting or anything like that, but any insights that you have, in particular, if you have like stories, I'd love to capture those. So, because it helps me in my training that I can
Okay.
use. So,
Very good. We have a family corporation. We
okay.
have four sons, and they're on the front lines of the corporation now. I'm 73 years old, and so I'm definitely involved. I still attend the corporate meetings with the boys, but they're on the front lines. So we've been in business about 51 years, all the way from KOA campgrounds. We've had four of those, and we're grocers and Ace Hardware people. In fact, we have the one right there in Rexburg,
Oh, is that right?
in the middle of town. So that's one of our businesses, and so yeah, we hire. Right now, we sold our KOA campgrounds because we had some investors hunt us down about 3 years ago and just wouldn't give up, and we finally gave in and decided to go ahead and expand our retail some more. So we just opened the one there in Last Chance. Did you happen to see that?
Yes. That looked
That new,
amazing.
yeah, that we just opened that about 7 weeks ago. And so anyway, that's us. We have during the high season, we have a couple of hundred employees now. When we were in the KOA business, we had like 350. So that's kind of how my dad and I began the business in 1975 in Soda Springs, Idaho.
Okay.
And then we expanded from there. But anyway, that's a really quick background. We've literally hired, I don't know how many thousands of people. And there is some very strong common denominators
Yeah.
for both sides of the equations. And so more than happy to, share with you as you shoot me some questions and we can kind of get going here. So,
Okay. Well, perfect. Um, so, Dan, when you think about the best people your company has hired, how were they first discovered or noticed?
How were they first discovered or noticed?
Yeah.
That's a really good question. A lot of our people came in for interviews after we review applications. And so when we first get to know them, that's generally the way that's happened for us. And of course, over time, that's all changed. You have all this technology and interviews, and we've done J1 students through their program across the world, and just all kinds of stuff. But it's mostly that. And once they come on board, then of course we start to notice more and more what you actually see, what they're really actually made of, beyond what you can possibly extract out of an interview.
Mm-hmm.
But really, the first impressions are really important. Body language, the way they're dressed, the way they're groomed, that just makes so much difference. And the casual person or the person who's really interested, you're kind of in this research type mode, so you probably have a million stories. And I always like to point out in our customer service training, Chick-fil-A and In-N-Out. And you and I can talk about this behind the scenes,
Mm-hmm.
but you can't talk about it in the public because you could easily be sued. But have you ever seen an employee in either one of those locations with a tattoo?
Nope, they're either covered up or you don't see them.
No, you don't see them.
Yeah.
And they have, if they have piercings, it's like what we're familiar with in a church typically, and that's something simple and nice and modest and reasonable. They're also all completely clean and so well groomed. If you take In-N-Out just as an example, they have they use what we call four-way aprons. And so their apron that goes around them, the red apron, is, if it gets one tiny thing on it, they immediately take that off, flip it over, and put it back on so it's as clean as could be. And if they end up getting all four sides soiled, they hurry and get another one. You walk in there and you will always see they just look like they came out of a showroom. and so well behaved, and mannerisms and smiles and brightness in their face and their eyes. I mean, it's just amazing. And so those are really good examples. And we still sit back and say, how are they finding all these young people? Because they are so hard to find now.
Yeah.
It's getting really difficult, by the way. Yeah.
Oh, interesting. No, this is good stuff. So Dan, when you're sorting through applications, what makes one person rise to the top even before the interview stage?
One of those things is, have they had experience? Also, the other thing too is, we typically come from small towns.
Mm-hmm.
And so who do they put down for references? This is such a good question. How did we do that? How do we do that? Right now, we're just happy to get applications, and It's so sad. And so it's kind of, let's see, what made them, why did we call them instead of somebody else? The other thing, too, that was important to us in our small towns is that we knew who they were.
Okay.
And they were related to so-and-so, and we knew them from their work ethics and what they did in the community, and so that really helped us. But that doesn't help somebody who's going into more of a worldwide interview or wanting, like leaving BYU Idaho and going somewhere else to be interviewed. Neatness of application. And, instead of just little, short, messy answers, I mean, that makes a difference. It's so interesting. How could that be? But it does. When you call them on the phone, but I'm off. I'm not on your question. That's what's hard.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of a response did you get? Did you get a really cheerful person or a very straightforward yes, no, like I just got out of bed and I don't care that you're calling me right now attitude? But back to your question. Wow. I don't think I have a great answer for that.
Well,
we do look at the actual application.
Yeah.
And what does that mean to us? And where did they go to school and what have they accomplished? Those are some big things. Were they kids that were involved? Were they in sports? Were they in school government, like in high school? Were they, what did they do at BYU Idaho besides, in our case, did they go on a mission? Back in the day, we actually were looking for Eagle Scouts. Remember those days?
Yeah.
But we don't have that anymore. But that was a big deal. I remember very briefly, I don't want to take you on too many tangents here, but very briefly, I served my mission from 72 to 74 in the Delaware, Maryland mission / then became Washington, D.C. mission when the temple started coming out of the ground. And back then, that was the days when we went and got our own apartments, wrote personal checks that far away from home for rent and et cetera, right? And there was a couple of places we had to go and talk to bankers and trying to get some cash to operate with and to buy a hammer, whatever we were doing. And the bankers would say, look, I can't do your check. And every single time that my companion and I would say, well, we're Eagle Scouts, does that matter? He'd point at your checkbook, write the check.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, that is
so
amazing.
we look for things like that.
Well, it's interesting because you mentioned you knew who they were, and we're finding a theme when it comes to, and that's on corporate level everywhere, knowing who they are, and so references that so and so's daughter, they just graduated, let's give her a chance and stuff. So I find your answer there, and finding commonalities like with the Eagle Scouts, I think it's very valuable. When you're interviewing, are there any qualities or skills that make someone stand out during the initial hiring process beyond just their resume or formal qualities or qualifications?
Yes. We of course are looking for people who are ambitious and have shown that in their past. But people who have a personality, you can buy, being in the hardware business, you can buy a hammer in how many different places, Spencer? Good heavens.
Right.
Hundreds. But what about the personality, the greeting, the sincere, I care about you type personality? And we're so glad that you're here, and thank you for coming in, and how can I help you? Or how... We avoid that one, by the way. How may I help you? Can is one thing, may is another.
Yeah.
And so they should not use the word can, because that means, do you have the ability or but may I is, I really want to do something for you.
Yeah.
And of course, in the hardware business, when you walk in, you are so grateful that someone can grab you and take you instead of searching around. And that's why Home Depot and Lowe's have such a struggle, is people walk 3 miles before they get out of there, and they're frustrated. So that's one of our goals. But anyway, we're looking for people who, of course, are all the things we've talked about, well-groomed, very, very outgoing. They want to talk. they want to talk to people, but also willing to just jump in and be self-starters.
Oh,
Go to work. Don't wait for us to tell you to do something every day or every minute. And if you're doing something that we'd rather have you doing somewhere here, we'll kindly grab you and say, hey, let's come back to that. Can you come and help here for a little while first? But instead of just standing around waiting. And boy, I don't know. I'm sure some of your questions are, as things come to mind, I'll just share because you can add them in later. But
yeah.
I'm telling you, Spencer, we got problems.
Mm-hmm.
We have serious problems with our youth. Oh my goodness. We just opened the store up here 7 weeks ago. We hired several high school kids, not several, mostly kids who had graduated or going either on missions or they're going to do a year of college. A few high school kids, not too many. And these kids, most of them are sharp, they're pleasant, and they have no interest in working. They just want to stand around and hope they get a paycheck. We've had some of the most harsh, our sons have been telling me some of the stories. I'm just, at my age, just appalled.
Mm-hmm.
We had 2 young women, for example, who graduated. They decided to go on missions. They actually have mission calls. And we asked them, they grabbed some Ace Hardware 5-gallon buckets from off the shelf, brought them up, and were sitting on them behind the cash register. One of our sons walked up and said, hey, let me explain what this looks like to the guest. And they just looked at Kurt and says, so we don't care. They actually said that, Spencer.
Oh, sheesh. And
so then they caught him, so they put him away. And then the next day they did it again, right in front of him, like, I really don't care. Why don't you just go ahead and fire me because I really don't want to be here anyway. And then we have another one, I can just go on. Mm-hmm. And it's just unreal. Like, okay, we have freight. Like, trucks come in. We sell a lot of merchandise off the shelves. Got to be filled back up, right? And these kids will pick up something out of a green, we call them totes, where they pile all this hardware stuff in these totes. And it's sort of sorted by aisle, but not totally. They'll pick it up and stare at it, and I've actually stood back and watched them. And they wander around. They don't do. I mean, they could spend all day on one tote if you let them. And if you press them, they're literally offended. So what you need to be teaching is the actual absolute opposite of what I'm saying. It's just, this is, how are they going to make it? I mean, one of the kids, I'm going to be a pilot. And I wanted to say so bad, whatever you do, I'm going to make sure that you're not flying that airplane I'm getting on.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It takes more than just learning how to fly an airplane. You got to be focused and diligent and care about your job and it's just like one kid, we said, hey, would you please take your turn to go out and see, we're setting up processes and procedures right now. So they're going to learn this eventually. But in the meantime, you say, hey, would you mind go out and check all the fuel pumps and do all the, window washers and check all the pumps, wipe them all off and empty the garbage. They know what they're supposed to do once they go do that. And this one kid, who most unfortunately just married our granddaughter, basically refuses to go do garbage. That's below him. So when he gets asked to do his turn, he goes and finds some other person and tells them that they're supposed to go do it. I am not kidding you.
Oh, that's crazy. Yeah, we got to, and this is the stuff that I need to bring back because, I mean, if we can teach them hard work, problem solving skills, self starters. You're spot on, Dan, of what we need.
Yeah, yeah, desperately.
Well, let me ask you this: when it gets into, let's say you've just hired somebody, are there any qualities or behaviors that help them become a strong long term fit for the workforce?
Yes. Again, we're talking work ethic. In other words, it's so clear in a heartbeat that if they have been taught responsibility and hard work at home, 100%. I mean, honestly, there are so many kids out there that parents think it's their job to just write checks. You can lay in your bed all day long and I'll pay you to get good grades. Don't worry about working. Don't worry about going down to Brolam's and getting a job. Don't worry about mowing the neighbor's lawn. Nothing. Just get good grades. We'll clean your socks. We'll pick up your room for you. And we'll just take care of you. We'll change your diaper. I don't know, Spencer. I get pretty upset about this.
Yeah.
But it is a nasty, nasty problem. And it's poison. I don't know what these kids are. These the ones that everybody's talking about that are going to be living in their parents' basements doing nothing?
Right.
And I know that we in the church and at BYU Idaho and et cetera, I know we're a cut above that, but these kids, a lot of them are not exempt from what I'm saying.
No.
Because I just told you about the two girls. And then we have these three boys from St. Anthony that we hired, and they came recommended by our grandson who just left for his mission in Johannesburg. Said, hey, these guys are great guys. You know, they're on our cross-country team, blah, 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 blah. And so they said, hey, look, we're all buddies and we can commute. If there's any way we can work schedule out, we'd come work. Great. So next thing you know, we are all sick today.
All of you.
Oh, interesting. All three of you conveniently got sick at the same time. Next conversation. Our car's not working, so we're not coming. We're talking three people on a schedule. And these are real stories within the last 5 weeks.
So it's probably pretty fresh on your mind.
So we had another one of our people from our corporate office. Our corporate office, one of them is upstairs above Ace. Anyway, from our corporate office coming up to help us. Actually, our CPA. He likes to get out of the office. Can I come in and help? Sure. That's another thing. You need to be able to say, hey, how can I be of help today?
Yeah.
You know, I can see this and this. What would you like me to do instead of nothing? Anyway, so he volunteers to stop in St. Anthony on his way up and pick up these three boys. 2 out of the 3 said no. One of them said, sure, pick me up. He comes up there, and our grandson is our store director here, so we've moved into the next generation. And our grandson, Drew, goes and talks to him, thanks him for coming to work, arranging stuff, and then he says, here's your schedule for next week, and can I depend on you being here for this schedule? He goes, no, I don't want to do that. How about if I just quit right now? And oh, by the way, no notice. Thank you. See ya. That just happened 2 days ago.
And they came recommended from
by our grandson.
Oh, wow.
And I'm sitting back as an old grandpa here going, Mom and Dad, are you like in existence? Where are we here?
That's crazy. Well, let me ask you this. I mean, are there any skills or characteristics that separate employees who just simply perform their job from those that are strong candidates for promotion?
Okay, Spencer, say that again.
Yeah. What skills or characteristics separate employees who simply perform their jobs from those that are strong candidates for promotion?
Oh, okay. Yeah, because there are those, right,
Right.
who will jump in and get the work done, but they are lacking in people skills.
Okay.
They're lacking in, and again, oh boy, let's not start on that one. Oh man, yikes. In other words, the only other communication they understand is the phone.
Right.
And that's just got to go. But anyway, they might be really hard workers and can sweep the floor and do all, put out freight and do a great job and this and that. But we need personality for promotion. We need ambition. We need drive. We need vision. We want them to. We actually call our employees our work family. We try to avoid employees, and we've done that for 51 years. You're part of it. We want you to wake up in the morning and say, I get to go to work, not I have to.
Ooh, I love that.
And so we try to create an environment like that, and it's a lot of hard work, but that's just kind of how it is. And so those who do their job and are definitely going to become candidates for promotion are those who have that drive. They're out in front of everybody else, not trying to show off and not trying to prove how good I am. That's another problem with the kids today. But anyway, they think it's a performance. But instead of a sincere, heartfelt, I care about this business, I'm getting paid to care about this business. And when I'm not at this business, I represent it in the public. Like I work at Brolam's. And so I am expected to represent Brolam's and not act like a nincompoop, And so anyway, yeah, there's really a big difference about caring.
Yeah. You started to touch on something, and I get the feeling it had to do with like pride, but it's not pride as in I'm proud to be an American, but proudful kids. Was that what you're going to be touching on when you're like, oh,
yeah. I think a little bit. In other words, there are definitely those out there that are so cocky, they just think that they're better than anybody else. And typically they're not. They're at the bottom of the barrel. My wife and I served as mission leaders in Houston, Texas. And we had young people showing up in the mission field like that. I mean, in their initial interviews, they were like promoting themselves. Like, they didn't say these words exactly, but I did hear in some cases through the grapevine that their parents told them, you will be an assistant to the president within the first 6 months because you're just so great. And so when they'd come and sit across from me, you could just see how they were promoting themselves. And you're just sitting there staring at them like, wow, that's great. Instead of that really sweet, humble spirit of hard work and love your companion and love everybody you run into that will listen to you and just become this quiet, beautiful, wonderful leader. And so that all kind of applies to what we're talking about here in the workforce. Yeah. Same thing.
When you think about the people that you've worked with, and it sounds like you've got a good variety of these. So when you think about those type of people who are successful in your business, organization, and all those things, what qualities, characteristics, and skills do they consistently demonstrate that we need to teach people at BYU Idaho?
Yeah, very good. Yeah, like, for example, we have a store director in every one of our stores. Our sons, manage and direct them because we have to do it that way because we're big enough that we need that. And so our store directors obviously just didn't get there because they walked in the door one day and we put it on their chest, store director. And so these these kinds of people are, without a doubt, self-starters. They they have the ability to kindly lead others without others feeling like they are that they are better than they are. They're also the kind of people who are team players. In other words, we try to teach, we don't ask anybody to do anything that we're not willing to do ourselves. And so, we're looking for people who would recognize that as a really important skill and a trait, a character trait that, we just, talk about creating peace and just a lot of good feelings, in a workforce. Mm-hmm. And so whatever you do, don't get the idea that we have a perfect workforce, because we definitely don't.
Right.
We have to keep looking at it. But yeah, all of those, and honesty, oh my goodness, honesty is just becoming something that's going away, Spencer. It's so sad. Oh my goodness. This entitlement world, the kids are coming to us entitled because of all those things you and I have already covered. And therefore, it's like, well, if the boss walks up and says, hey, we got a new candy here we just got in, let me, I want you to taste it. So here's one. And then the next thing you know, they're stealing from you because they're thinking, well, the boss gave me one of those to taste one, so surely it's not a problem if I go ahead and graze, as the official term is, grazing, eating product in the store that doesn't yours and you didn't pay for. So I don't know. I hope that picture helps a little bit.
Yeah, it does. Well, Dan, I've got one more question for you. So go back to your 17-year-old self who wants to be hired, succeed, and eventually be promoted. What would you tell yourself to develop first, and why?
Obedience and hard work. It seems to cover it all.
Yeah. Why do you say obedience and hard work? Because that seems like a really good combination, but why do you say those two?
Because we must learn to obey, not just in the gospel, but, that every business has high expectations of, this is what we expect from you, and not like pushback, like, well, I don't want to do that job, or I don't, that doesn't sound very fun, or that box is too heavy, and you just, and then just get in and go to work, and that has really proved to be such valuable things. In fact, we adopted those two things in our mission, is obedience and hard work. And so that's kind of that's what I would tell myself. Now, we are all blessed with different things, our environment, how we grew up, our personalities. Wow, some people just have those outgoing personalities, which are really critical.
Yeah.
But there are great jobs too out there for those who are very quiet in personality, and do better behind a computer, but still become a very good team player. Somebody who's willing to help somebody else out. How can I help you? Somebody comes to you and says, hey, I have a question. I don't understand what the boss is asking me to do here. Can you help me? So instead of saying, I'm not going to help you, buddy, because this is a dog-eat-dog world, and I want to stay ahead of you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Type of attitude. So anyway, that's what I would definitely tell myself, that I would be a be a true and faithful employee and do whatever I could. Not necessarily seeking any attention or anything like that, but just being faithful.
I love that. I love that. And, on a personal note, because as a faculty member that sits down with these kids and I can look them in the eye and I can say, it's not just learning the math and jumping through these classes. There is a humility, there's a teamwork, there's an honesty thing that you kind of have to dig down deep into your soul and say, this is the type of person I want to be, not only at church where the bishop can see me, but at work, in the family, in personal interactions. And so, Dan, you're hitting it right on the head that I feel we need to teach these youth.
Yeah.
So, God.
Yeah, it's just so true. I love the way you said it. And if there's any way we could just help all that we can, it's just, wow. We started, Spencer, with our children. We have 7 children, 28 grandkids, 6 great grandkids, so that you can kind of visualize the size of our family and blah, blah, blah. And we started our own grocery business in 75 when the kids were old enough, which was not old at all. In fact, they were so small that Debbie and I would take the kids. The youngest one was usually in a little carrier sitting on top of the floor cleaning machine. And we're down there scrubbing floors at night because we're trying to save money and survive in business.
Yeah.
On a new business. And so our little kids would come, and they were so small that they couldn't swing a mop. They had to hold the top of the mop head with their hands in order to clean up the little puddles of water that the machine left at the ends of the aisles.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what they call it today? Child abuse. And I'm not kidding.
I know.
That's child abuse. You can't do that. And our kids have all turned out to be very productive, hardworking, trying to do their best. And it was because they learned how to work and learned responsibility. They had their jobs at home and everything else that went with it. So we really need somehow, and our family's not this magical family, ahead of anybody else. I'm just using that as an example, saying that we need so much more of that. And it's missing. And so if you guys can kind of pick up some of that and help these young people, it's just appalling. Before I forget this example, because it really saddens me badly, I'm a sealer in the Rexburg Temple.
Okay.
And I've heard from previous Rexburg Temple presidencies, and now this one, maybe not quite as much because I haven't really got into the questions like I did before. Debbie and I served in the the first Star Valley Temple presidency. And so you don't need to know the history of why we're here. But anyway, the point is, during that same period, Phil Packer, I don't know if you knew Phil.
Oh, yeah, very well. He hired me.
Okay. Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah.
Good. Well, Phil Packer, and he's done a lot of our estate planning attorney work. Anyway, he was serving as a counselor in the Rexburg Temple presidency the same 3 years we were in Star Valley. And so we'd have temple discussions once in a while. We're on the phone or when we were having dinner together or something, once in a blue moon. And he started telling me this saddest story. He says, Dan, you would be shocked at how many of our young people who are ordinance workers do not show up. They don't call in. They don't get a substitute. They just think everything will be just fine if I don't show up.
My parents were schedulers in the temple, and it was so frustrating when they'd find people like that.
Yeah. And this is supposed to be our best, you know?
Yeah.
A lot of them return missionaries trying to navigate life and just don't even care enough to show up or make an effort to substitute or something.
Yeah.
So I hope all this has helped you, you know. And the thing is really frustrating. I'm frustrating myself now because I'm like, I covered a lot of negative stuff.
Yeah.
And I am actually an eternal optimist. And I am really big into giving people so many opportunities to grow and to learn. And I never give up on anybody.
Yeah.
And so I look at the world today, not through the eyes of the news or all the negative things, but through the eyes of the greatness of people. You can go any grocery store, any public place, let's say that, any public place, and you can say hi to people, and you're going to get a lot of good highs back. And if you don't, they're going to feel better because you spoke to them.
Yeah.
And so that's what's really happening as far as I'm concerned. And so we just got to keep working with this, and we can't let the adversary beat us to death because we got these young people who are appalling us to death with their inabilities. But we hope that they are a better person when they leave our employ to do whatever they're going to do next.
Yeah.
And that's what our focus really is. But if we don't address the challenges, then we won't have a very clear path on what to teach.
Right, and that's kind of what I gather from what you're talking about. Because I never thought you were being negative. It's just you're being realistic. But the things you're talking about, if like even when you're saying, all right, clean cut, well groomed and stuff, that really talks about the honor code. It's not just, hey, we've got this honor code and you're going to do it because we tell you to. It's more like we're setting life patterns for you that's going to help you out in the workforce. And like you said, it's the little things that's going to help them out. And that's just one example. Because you mentioned a few things that while you did have some negative spins on it, there are things that we need to look out for, and there's an urgency that we need to say, okay, we need to do the opposite of that because we are looking for kids that are ambitious, not lazy, that want to and get to go to work, not have to go to work. So, Dan, this is great stuff.
Well, I hope that was helpful. And
it is.
We can even talk about Ammon.
Uh-huh.
What did he do for the king? He went in and started working.
Yep.
Cleaning out the stalls and getting the king's horses. I mean, he didn't walk in and say, "Okay, king, where's my robe that I put on so I can march around and bring you your next cookies and milk?" And no, he just went to work, and he went to work at what would probably be considered at the time the lowest level. The guy cleaning the manure out of the stalls. Okay.
Yeah.
That's what we got to do. Yeah. You got to start there. Don't expect to become the number one guy, and so you can skip all that. But I'm circling back again, Spencer. Unfortunately, we have so many parents with so many means that are telling their kids they get to skip all that because our family and our family name is above that.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Well, that's hard because it kind of sets it up even for the next generation that when you do have to do hard things, they give up. And unfortunately, there are levels. It's like everybody should move pipe or something like that or do something hard so that when you don't have to, you appreciate where you're at. So
exactly. Yeah, awesome. That's exactly right.
Dan, you mentioned grocery stores. Which grocery stores did you work at?
Well, we have our grocery store in Soda Springs that we opened our store was Lou and Dan's Thriftway in
Okay.
Soda Springs. Then we expanded from there, went to Bear Lake. We had a little small grocery store there, and then we eventually opened a small Ace Hardware store. And since then, I don't know if you've been to Garden City lately, but the Mike's Market and the Ace Hardware over there, that's that new complex, about 5 years old.
Yeah.
It's about 40,000 square feet. That's us. So we just kind of grew that. My dad grew up all through high school working for grocers, and worked his way up and became managers of, Smith, Albertsons, Safeway, all those guys from way back when. So he grew up doing that. So in 75, after I got from my mission, got married, we were able to fortunately join hands together and open our own store in Soda Springs, and then just grew from there.
Oh, fun.
So we have the Ace Hardware there in Rexburg. We have the west side of Idaho Falls. So Broadway West, next to Albertsons, we have that one. And then we have a small grocery store in Lava Hot Springs, again, Mike's Market. We also have the Ace Hardware and a supermarket in Garden City, and then we just opened this one. So 4 Ace Hardware stores and a couple of grocery stores.
Okay.
So, anyway.
That's neat. The one in Island Park, it just popped up. Like, I swear we were there one week, and the next week, I mean, probably it was the last summer that we drove through, but it shocked me. I was like, what? That wasn't there before.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's neat. Well, the next time I stop in there, because we always buy bear spray and stuff, going through there, I'll think of Dan. Now, how do you say your last name?
It's Moldenhauer.
Moldenhauer. Okay.
Yep. So, anyway, we have what you need there, and that was our whole purpose of being in business. Is we like to provide, what people need, and provide great service the best we can. Clean store, nice restrooms, whatever we're doing. Things that are becoming, and of course, great customer service, as you know, Spencer, is going away.
Yeah.
It is so sad. It's just people are just hiring people who can breathe. And it doesn't matter what you look like. If you'll just sit right here or stand right here and check people out, thank you very much.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh man, we're not teaching people anything. Sad, isn't it?
Well, I'll do my part to reverse that, at least with BYU Idaho students.
Wonderful, thank you.
Yeah, and I'm hoping to publish this so that it actually goes a little bit further than that. So I hope it goes a little bit bigger than that. So.
Yeah, absolutely. That'd be wonderful.
Good. Well, Dan, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Is there anybody else that you know of that I should talk to that could help me out with this research? Kind of like what Braden did, of where he reached out to you?
Oh, that's just such a great question. Let me give some thought to that.
Okay.
And then let me text you back.
No problem. I'll send you a text in a couple days and just see how you're doing and see if you have anybody. Okay.
Okay. That'd be great.
Thanks, Dan. I appreciate it.
You bet. Have a great day and good luck to you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You bet. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.